I've been a sportscaster for over 30 years, and I don't remember in 30 years a team losing a close playoff game and not blaming the refs. Oh, boy. So Kansas City's better than Cincinnati, and I thought Cincinnati would win. But Kansas City's quarterback played better than the other team. Kansas City dominated the first half. Kansas City made fewer mistakes. Kansas City protected their quarterback better than Cincinnati did. And 99.9% of the time, the team that does those 4 or 5 things wins the game. Mahomes is different. He played on one leg, had no run support, was missing at one point 3 of his top wide receivers, and put up a line that is, a Mahomesian line. That's now his league average. Couple of TDs, passer rating at 105, completion percentage 67%. The great ones overcome, and both those quarterbacks are great, but one is greater. 5 years, 5 AFC championships, all at home. MVPs, trophies, he doesn't have them stacked like Brady. But Bill Russell won almost twice as many titles as MJ and was a better defensive player, in fact, maybe the greatest of all time. We didn't wait to call MJ the GOAT. What are we waiting for? His instincts, faster, better than Brady. He moves better than Brady, arm better than Brady, winning more early over Brady, not relying on defense like Brady. It's the best quarterback I've ever seen. You can blame the refs. But the Chiefs had more yards, more first downs, were better on third down, more yards per play, fewer turnovers, dominate time of possession, and their quarterback had 2 touchdowns, no picks, and Joe Burrow had 2 picks, one really, really bad. And I love Joe Burrow. It wasn't the refs. Keep blaming them. You've got to get better. Everybody does in the world. By the way, pain tolerance is also a skill. He's A++ at that. Wincing more than once, running around. I had said last week, I think we're overstating the injury. I've seen Mahomes playing a high ankle sprain a couple years ago, and he had 440 yards. Now, it was the Raiders, but it was still something to see. Every other quarterback had something they worked around. Brady's not very physically mobile. Manning could get rigid. Favre made too many mistakes. Maybe Montana wasn't big enough. Mahomes checks every box, and his instincts are bizarre. His ability to see an open player and get the ball out of his hands quickly. Marino was close, but Dan's not this. I've literally never seen a quarterback without a hole. Every couple of years, he goes off the reservation a bit with his mechanics, and Andy has to reel him back in. But with no run game, every quarterback's good with a lead. Every quarterback's great with a run game. Every quarterback's great with time. Mahomes went 67%, 105.4 passer rating, 2 TDs, no picks, 326, throwing to backups, throwing to guys in the fourth quarter who have more career tackles than catches. And those numbers I just gave you, they're his per-game average. He doesn't dip in the playoffs. When Sky Moore, and Bengal fans don't want to talk about this, returned that punt at the end of the game for 27 yards to midfield, I literally thought, okay, it's over. I can go pour a cocktail. I never feel like that with any other player on the planet. Game's over. By the way, that return you're watching now got about twice as many yards as the late hit penalty, which Bengal fans apparently have amnesia on the punt return. But the ability of Mahomes is like nothing I've ever seen, and it creates great clarity. You're complaining in New York that Daniel Jones doesn't have this, or your quarterback doesn't have that. No run game, one leg, facing a great defense, using backups. That Bengals defense is as good as any in the league in the fourth quarter. By the way, Burrow had 2 fourth-quarter drives, a pick and a punt, and I love Burrow. But what you're watching here is different. It is just different. And when you can juxtapose them, put them side by side, you see the difference. And Mahomes, seriously, I think he's getting better. I honestly think he's getting better. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback talent I've ever seen. And I don't know why I got to keep waiting. He's not probably going to get this trophy or this or that. If we're just talking about stacking things, then Michael Jordan's not the best basketball player ever. You have to contextualize stuff. But when I watch Mahomes play, arm, instincts, mobility, pain tolerance, intelligence, I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. I don't want to hear about your crappy quarterback's average O-line. I don't want to hear about your crappy or average quarterback's lack of receivers. Who was he throwing to yesterday? Guys that Aaron Rodgers couldn't make viable. He makes viable in an AFC Championship game. Absolutely an insane talent, and we're lucky to have him. And he's also a great guy and a great teammate. All right, now to the next game. You know, I'd said, circumstances change opinions. And like Tom Brady with his kids in Florida playing for the Niners, I'm thinking to myself, that's just a lot, even though his parents are there. But I'm sitting watching that game, and I'm thinking, Kyle Shanahan went through Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, Josh Johnson, and they're hiking a ball to Christian McCaffrey. And I'm thinking to myself, I could see Brady texting him saying, I don't get hurt. And the Niners going, Debo's getting older, McCaffrey's taking hits, Trent Williams getting older, Kittle's taking hits. These guys aren't going to last forever. I could see the Niners after this weekend going, Brock Purdy is a little small. He is a 7th rounder. Maybe we got to go big because the Niners are loaded. But Philadelphia is a remarkable story. I lived out east for about 10 years. And out west, if we want a new building, we blow stuff up. We don't have a lot of old churches. We don't care much about that. For an old eastern city that's proud of its tradition, you really got to hand it to Philadelphia. Multiple quarterbacks, multiple coaches, second Super Bowl in 7 years, 4 different coaches in 23 years, 3 or 4 have been to the Super Bowl, all winning records, have all gotten to the playoffs. I really appreciate the way Philadelphia is willing to evolve. I don't even like all the moves. I thought Sirianni was a weak hire. I couldn't understand firing Doug Peterson, moving off Carson Wentz. But for an old, established eastern city, which has great pride and tradition, they will change direction in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. They're Amazon. You think they're one thing, the minute you do, they're another. It's remarkable. It is a completely stacked roster, and what's remarkable is their 2 playoff games were blowouts, and Jalen Hurts is not right. That dude needs to get healthy. He had no touch on deep balls. His stuff underneath was short. I don't know if Jalen Hurts is 70%. We talked about Mahomes' injury. I think Jalen Hurts is really hurt. I don't think he's right at all. But this roster may be gifted enough. It's got much more depth of talent than Kansas City. You could argue almost every unit, Philadelphia is deeper and more talented. It may be close in some, but they may be deeper and more talented in every single unit. It's really what I love about Philadelphia is what has confused me about Philadelphia. When I lived out east, people were into prep schools and tradition and churches, and sometimes I'd look at it and think, it's why are you so beholden to tradition? It is hard to move off it. Grandpa went to this church. Dad went to this church. You go to this church. Your kids will go to this church. You went to this summer camp. Your dad went to this summer camp. The East is very much about tradition. And then there's Philadelphia. And they're like, that coach was great. We won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. We got to move off that coach. What? We got to move off Andy Reid. What? We got to move off. Even Chip Kelly had a winning record. Different coaches, different quarterbacks, disagree with a lot of the moves. And here they are. 2 blowout playoff wins. People say, well, they had one of the easiest routes of all time. Potentially. I remember when USC was dominating college football, the Pac-12 had never been worse. They were still better than everybody. They're still better than everybody. Just because you have an easier route doesn't mean you're not the best team. And the Eagles are absolutely stacked. And it's because they've taken chance after chance. They've moved off winning coaches and winning quarterbacks. It's something to behold. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.